Alrighty, good afternoon, team. So this is week 5 of the multimedia discussion by Eric Sandoval. So let's go ahead and begin. So, employee training and development. So essentially, for my presentation, I wanted to focus on employee training and development. For essentially, the main idea is that employees learn in different ways, as we all do. We all learn in different ways. We all have our own methods as to how we be able to absorb that information. Um, but yeah. So essentially, is that employees learn in different ways, and training should be given should give them more than just information to read or listen to. Essentially, I did choose about 5 topics from this week's chapter that I think are important when creating employee training. So the ones I chose were feedback, reflection, and positive reinforcement, um, repetition and active participation, mentoring, and formal education. I think these topics are important because training is not just about giving employees just information. We also want employees to be able to understand what they are learning, what they are practicing, and begin exercising that, and be able to use it on their actual job. Um, and so essentially, who is the audience? Who are we focusing on? So that is new and current employees. Um, the audience. This can also include who are learning their job for the first time, or employees who are learning a new procedure or a new responsibility or a new policy that got set into place, right? One thing that I would keep my mind, one thing I would keep in mind, well, I'm sorry, one thing I would be mindful of is that not everyone will have the same experience. Some employees may understand something right away. Meanwhile, others need essentially more examples and more practice. Because we all, as mentioned, we all learn differently. Some of us are visual learners, and hands-on learners. But essentially, because of that, I would try to make the training as simple and easy to follow. I would also give employees different ways to participate instead of just expecting everyone to learn in exactly the same way. Now, then we have a positive. Then we have feedback, reflection, and positive reinforcement. And me personally, I think this is also very important. Um, everything is crucial in its own way, shape, or form. But um, but essentially, the first area that I wanted to focus on is feedback, reflection, and the positive reinforcement. I think feedback is really important because employees need to know what they are doing correctly and what they are able to improve on. We always have room for improvement. I think feedback works good when it's specific instead of just saying good job um or hey or maybe you need to do a little better or something like that. Um, being able to give to have that reflection gives employees a chance to really think about what they learned. For instance, after completing a training activity, an employee could think about what went well and what they could do differently next time. And then positive reinforcement is also just as important because when employees are doing something correctly, being able to recognizing that help can encourage them to keep doing it. I think the goal should be to help employees improve without making them feel like they are being criticized. And that's the last thing that anyone wants to feel like they're criticized. It's important to be able to guide and mentor these individuals, and positive reinforcement when they're doing something good is great. Um, as I mentioned, each one of these are all just as important as the previous one, but also repetition and active participation, right? So important part and this is another important part of that, because sometimes we hear something once and we think we understand it, but then we can forget it later on, or sometimes, as I saying, it comes in through one ear and right out the other. So repeating important information and giving employees a chance to practice can help them remember it. But I also think that employees should be involved in the training instead of just watching a presentation. I remember when I was in college, there was this girl that always started her presentation. She was a part of the staff, and she always said that people in a presentation typically just remember the beginning and the end. The middle tends to be a bit of a blur. Um, but that also gives employees a chance to really think about the information and being able to apply it. It also makes the training more engaging and it makes it a little more fun than just listening to someone talk for a long period of time. It's just like a lecture that no one wants to really hear or be involved in. So, repetition and active participation. Now, mentoring and formal education. Um, so essentially, mentoring, as we all know, is another way that employees can continue learning after formal training. So a mentor can be someone that has that experience and can answer those questions and be able to guide employees as to how it's done or how it should be done. I think mentoring can be especially helpful for new employees because a lot of them may not feel comfortable asking every question during the formal training. They don't want to slow down the training. They may feel shy, discouraged, or intimidated. But there should be no reason to that. But naturally, being a new employee, as mentioned in the last presentation of the generational differences, right? Some of us might get nervous asking, and we don't want to slow down the program. So we're just gonna jump into it, and then if I get it wrong, I'm sure they'll guide me there. So that's another way we can look at it. But also formal education is another way employees can develop their skills. So this could include classes, workshop, online courses, or ones that provide certifications. I don't think formal education and mentoring have to be separate. They can work together. An employee can learn basic information through a class or training, and then use a mentor to help them understand how to apply it to the actual job. But how would I create my training? Um, if I were creating the actual training video, one thing I want to do is keep it short, concise, and focused. I would begin by explaining the information in a simple manner. Then I would give an example to follow that employees can actually experience at work or something that they might have experienced previously. After that, I'll try to engage in some sort of type of participation. Ask questions or short scenarios. Employees can think about what they would do in those type of situations. I would then provide feedback or explain the best answer. Finally, I would review the main points so employees leave the training knowing that what they are supposed to remember. I think essentially this approach would work better than just giving employees a long presentation and expecting them to remember everything. And then for research and our best practices. So some of the sources that I will use is the Society of Human Resource Management. I will use sources that focus specifically on employee training and adult learning. So to backtrack, Society of Human Resource Management, I think is useful because it focuses on HR and workplace related issues. Furthermore, the Association for Talent Development is another good source because it focuses on employee learning and development. I would also use journal articles to learn more about things like feedback, mentoring, active participation, and adult learning. Um, but when researching, I would essentially try to make sure the information connects directly to my training instead of just finding general information about the training. We're gonna go information that relates to what they're gonna see out in the field and things that they're gonna experience. But in the end, Um, to be able to wrap it all up, I think effective training should be simple. It needs to be relevant and something employees can actually utilize, something that they can grasp, and it's gonna be applicable to what they are doing out in the field. I think the topics that I chose all kind of connect and build to that idea. Feedback helps employees know how they're doing. That reflection gives them time to think about what they learn. The positive reinforcement encourages good performance. Repetition and active participation help employees remember and practice that new information. And then mentoring and formal education can give employees additional ways to be able to continue learning. But essentially, I do think training would work best when employees are actually involved in the learning process and instead of just being given information. The goal should be for employees to leave the training knowing how they can use what they learned in their actual job. And I do thank you all for your time.